A man's words reveal what he is before he proves anything. There are those who speak as if wasting power, in excess, without direction, without pause, and there are those who speak as if they dominate their own territory. The difference between one and the other is rarely in the voice. It's in the consciousness. We all know someone who lost respect, not because of an action, but because of a poorly placed phrase. A joke out of place, an unnecessary justification, an anxious comment was enough, and the image changed, because speech is a mirror of the mind, and when the mind is confused, the speech denounces itself. Seneca said that whoever masters the language masters destiny, and that's why this video exists, because today many men still haven't realized that the way they speak defines how much the world respects them. It's not just what they say, it's how they say it, when they say it, and mainly what they choose to keep silent. This video is about the 7 stages of intelligent speech, the 7 levels that separate the common man, the one who speaks without thinking, from the wise man, the one whose word is a contract. You will understand how empty speech steals authority, how self-deprecating humor undermines respect, how justifications weaken the image, and how, step by step, silence and precision become the true weapons of intelligence. Intelligent speech is not cold, it's clean. It doesn't try to impress, it informs. It doesn't defend itself, it positions itself. And it doesn't need volume, because it carries clarity. A man who masters what he says is perceived even before he is understood. Imagine 2 scenes. In the first, a man enters a room and talks non-stop. He wants to be funny, he wants to please, he wants to show that he knows. In the second, another enters, listens more than he speaks, and when he opens his mouth, he says only what is necessary, and everyone listens to him. No sound was louder, but the respect was instantaneous. The way you speak is the way the world measures your mind, and whoever learns to master words also learns to master their own destiny. In the next few minutes, you will walk through the 7 levels of intelligent speech, and perhaps realize that true wisdom is not in speaking better, but in speaking less and with more intention. So before we start, I want to invite you to a simple exercise. Write here in the comments which city you are listening to me from now. Because regardless of where you are, the evolution of a man begins at the same point, the instant he decides to stop speaking impulsively and start speaking consciously. Level 1. The empty talker. The first level of intelligent speech is the most common and the most dangerous. It is the territory of the man who speaks without direction, without pause, without consciousness. He doesn't speak because he has something to say. He speaks because he is afraid of silence. And without realizing it, each word he releases is a small erosion in his own authority. The empty talker fills the air with phrases that leave no trace. He talks about everything, comments on anything, gives his opinion even when he is not sure. He confuses presence with noise and ends up being heard but never remembered. People associate him with agitation, not wisdom. Seneca wrote that talking too much is the symptom of a mind that has not yet learned to choose the essential, and the empty talker is a reflection of that. He tries to prove value with sound, but the more he speaks, the less strength what he says has. His presence is light, but not in a good way. Light, like a wind that passes and moves nothing. Imagine a man in a group of friends. The conversation changes topics all the time. Politics, soccer, relationships, and he talks about all of them. He interrupts, laughs loudly, wants to be noticed. But at the end of the night, no one remembers anything he said. Because he never left an idea, only noise. And noise, no matter how loud, does not build respect. Or think about a date, a dinner. The woman in front of him hears stories without pause, rehearsed jokes, comments about the weather, about the waiter, about the traffic. He believes he's being charismatic. But in reality, he is only revealing insecurity. Because the man who speaks without pause tries to hide the fear of not being interesting in silence. Epictetus said that the wise man speaks because he has something to say. The fool speaks because he needs to say something. And that is the watershed of this level. The empty talker seeks acceptance, and for that he spends verbal energy as if scattering coins without realizing it. But each word said without purpose weakens the image, because respect is born from containment, not from excess. Silence intimidates the insecure because it reveals what is really happening inside, and that's why many speak so much, to stifle their own discomfort. But silence, when endured, begins to strengthen you, because the man who endures the emptiness of silence learns that he doesn't need to be heard all the time. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul feeds on what it occupies itself with most. If you occupy yourself with noise, the spirit disperses. If you occupy yourself with stillness, the spirit takes root. The first level of intelligent speech is, therefore, that of detachment from sound. It is the moment to realize how much constant talking is an escape from oneself. From here, learning begins. Decrease the sound, increase the presence, stop filling every second of conversation, learn to let silence breathe and allow the other to speak too. Because deep down, whoever speaks less is more remembered. And whoever learns to keep their words begins, without realizing it, to gain respect even before saying a single one. Level 2, the self-deprecator. The second level is treacherous because it seems like a virtue, but it's just a disguise. It is the territory of false humility, the field of the man who tries to gain respect by diminishing himself. He makes jokes about his own mistakes, laughs at his own weaknesses, tries to appear light, but deep down, it's fear. Fear of being judged, fear of appearing arrogant, fear of standing out. And behind this humor, the world sees what he himself does not realize. Insecurity disguised as modesty. I'm kind of dumb for that. I'm a disaster myself. These things are not for me, no. Each of these phrases is a small self-sabotage. The man believes he is being nice, but he is, in fact, teaching others to doubt him. Seneca said that no one respects themselves for being small, but for remaining whole. And the self-deprecator confuses integrity with self-deprecation. He thinks that diminishing himself is a sign of humility, when in reality it is the opposite. True humility does not deny one's own value, it only puts it into perspective. Imagine a competent, experienced professional, but who always starts his speeches by saying, "Look, I may be wrong, but I'm not an expert, okay? But I think that..." Even before delivering the content, he already diminishes himself. And people unconsciously start listening to him with less weight. The initial insecurity contaminates what comes next. Or think about a man on a date. The woman praises him for his career, for his posture, and he replies, "It's luck. I was just in the right place at the right time." He doesn't realize that he is denying his own effort, that by trying to appear modest, he is erasing his own competence, and the result is always the same. He loses magnetism because he transmits doubt. Epictetus said, "Do not lower yourself to fit into the minds of others." And that is the test of this level. The man who speaks by diminishing himself believes he is being pleasant, but deep down, he is asking permission to exist. And no one respects someone who needs to ask permission to be what they are. The self-deprecator lives in a dangerous emotional field. He wants to be accepted and therefore uses humor as a shield. But the shield also prevents him from being seen. He hides behind his own jokes, his own defects, and believes he is being light. But what the world perceives is a lack of conviction. And without conviction, there is no respect. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the dignity of a man is the sum of his thoughts about himself. Whoever thinks low speaks low, and whoever speaks too low about himself is forgotten, because respect is a vibration. and the world feels the tone with which you describe yourself. The Stoic path here is simple. Stop using your voice to diminish yourself. True humility doesn't need confession, just silence. Don't say, "I'm bad at this." Say, "I'm still learning." Don't say, "I'm unlucky." Say, "I'm in process." The difference is subtle, but it changes everything. A man who speaks respectfully about himself teaches the world to do the same. Perhaps this is the moment to look at your own speech and ask yourself, how many times, without realizing it, have I diminished who I am to appear lighter? How many times have I confused humility with self-sabotage? The voice has memory, and everything you say about yourself, the world repeats. From now on, perhaps it's time to choose words that elevate you, even in silence. The next level shows the next step in this evolution, when the man stops diminishing himself but still feels the need to justify himself and discovers that constant explanation is also a form of weakness. Level 3, the justifier. The third level is that of defensive speech, the stage in which the man feels the need to explain everything, even what was not asked. It is the territory of the justifier, the man who apologizes for acting, for choosing, for deciding. He thinks he's being transparent, but what the world sees is insecurity, and the more he tries to be understood, the more fragile he seems. I only said that because I was nervous. It's not that I don't want to help. It's that I'm tired. I was going to answer, but I thought it was better to wait. Each phrase is an attempt to manage the image, and each justification steals a piece of authority. The justifier doesn't understand that silence is also an answer. He believes he needs to be understood all the time, but respect is not born from explanation. It is born from conviction. And conviction is not explained, it is transmitted. Seneca said, "Whoever needs to justify what they are has not yet understood their own value." And that is exactly what happens at this level. The man tries to balance between pleasing and asserting himself, but in this effort, he exhausts his strength. While he speaks, he contradicts himself. While he tries to appear understanding, he seems submissive. Imagine a man at work who, when delivering a project, starts by saying, "Look, I did my best, but I had little time. It's not perfect yet, but..." Even before presenting what he did, he is already apologizing. And without realizing it, he diminishes his own merit. Whoever listens to him does not hear the content, they hear the hesitation, or think about a relationship. The partner asks something simple, and he begins a 3-minute defense. There is no anger, but there is fear. The fear of appearing wrong, the fear of disappointing. And this fear manifests itself in long, circular explanations that only increase distrust, because the excess of words raises more doubts than answers. Epictetus said, "When a man is at peace with his choice, silence speaks for him." The justifier has not yet found this peace. He tries to anticipate judgment, tries to control what the other will think. But what the other perceives is just a man who does not trust his own decision. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Tranquility is the seal of the coherent soul." Tranquil speech is the speech of someone who does not need to defend themselves. Whoever is coherent affirms and follows. He doesn't try to convince, he just communicates. Because what is true does not need explanation, and what needs a lot of explanation is probably not true. The man who reaches this level needs to learn to save justifications. Every time you explain too much, you lose energy. Every time you defend yourself before being attacked, you teach the other to doubt. Speaking little and directly is the first form of authority. Imagine someone who, when questioned, responds calmly, "I did what I thought was right." Nothing more. Without trying to convince, without anxiety, without drama. This phrase, simple and firm, is worth more than 10 justifications, because respect is born in the space that remains between the other's doubt and your tranquility. From here, the evolution changes tone. the man begins to realize that the problem is not only what he says, but about whom he speaks. And the next level is the divider between the common man and the wise man, the one who has learned to remove from speech everything that does not belong to him, including the lives of others. Level 4, free from gossip. The transition happens here, in the instant when the man realizes that the mind that talks too much about others is the same one that forgets about itself. Gossip is the refuge of emptiness, a territory where whoever does not master their own life tries to master the narrative of others. It is the most subtle form of waste of energy because it gives the sensation of power without offering absolutely anything in return. The common man talks about others to feel alive. The wise man keeps silent to remain whole. Seneca said that the word that speaks of the absent destroys the soul of those present. And that is exactly it. When you talk about someone who is not there, you weaken your own character in front of whoever listens. Imagine a group of friends at a bar table. The laughter is loud, the jokes revolve around those who are not there. Criticisms, assumptions, comments about who changed or got worse. Among all, there is a silent man. He observes, listens, but does not participate. In the beginning, he is seen as distant, then as respectable, because his silence is an invisible border, a reminder that there are those who still know the weight of the word. Or think about a work environment. Colleagues comment on the boss's life, the posture of other employees, someone's personal choices. But there is a man who never enters these conversations. He only talks about what is productive. And little by little, people begin to realize he is the only one who doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. The trust that surrounds him is natural, almost inevitable, because whoever does not talk about others earns the right to be heard when they talk about themselves. Epictetus wrote, "Take care of what you say, for the word is the mirror of your inner government." The man free from gossip governs his own mouth well, and therefore governs his own mind well. He understands that each phrase is a vote of energy. Talking about someone who is not present is investing strength in something that cannot change, and nothing wears you out more than trying to correct the absence. Gossip is born from the desire to compare oneself, and comparing is always a way of envying. That is why the wise man cuts this cycle right at the root. He does not comment, does not opine, does not judge, he only observes. And when he is provoked, he responds calmly, "I don't know. And if I knew, I wouldn't say." This simple phrase is worth more than any discourse on ethics. It shows that the mastery of language is the first sign of the mastery of the mind. Marcus Aurelius said that what does not concern you should not occupy you, and that is the motto of this level. The man free from gossip understands that peace is too expensive to be exchanged for small social victories. He chooses silence not out of superiority, but out of focus. Every minute spent commenting on the other is a minute less building oneself. The result is visible. People start treating him differently. When he speaks, there is respect. When he opines, there is weight. And above all, there is trust. Because the world feels that his lips are a safe, not a megaphone. This level is the divider between reactive speech and strategic speech. From here, the man learns that speaking little is a form of natural intimidation, and that silence, when maintained by someone who has value, is noisier than any opinion. The next step is even more refined. Now that he has stopped wasting words with the world, he will learn to use speech with surgical precision, asking, affirming, and directing with clarity and purpose. Level 5. The precise request. Reaching the 5th level is starting to speak as if shooting with aim, not as if throwing arrows in the dark. It is the stage of objective, clean, and direct speech. The point where each word serves a purpose, and none of them are wasted. Here the man stops speaking to fill and starts speaking to define. After abandoning gossip, the speech of others and excessive explanations, He begins to understand something essential. Clarity is the highest form of respect. Respect for oneself and for the other. Whoever speaks with clarity does not manipulate, does not beat around the bush, does not leave doubts. He only establishes a territory of mutual understanding. Seneca said that speaking is building a bridge, but whoever speaks too much builds a bridge that never reaches the other side. The precise request is the exact bridge, which connects point A to point B, nothing more. It is the mastery of the verb as a tool of authority. The man who reaches this level speaks little, but when he speaks, he solves. He does not threaten, does not justify, does not appeal. He communicates the need with respect, but also with firmness. And the effect of this is immediate. The world listens to him. Imagine a simple scene. Two men make the same request to a colleague. The first says, "Would it be possible to see this for me, please?" "When you can, of course. I know you're busy." The second says, "I need this by tomorrow. Can you solve it?" The difference is small in the words, but immense in the perception. The first seems to ask permission, the second, positioning. And whoever positions themselves without aggression inspires respect, not by force, but by certainty. Another example, a man in a relationship. Instead of saying, "You never listen to me," he says, "I need you to listen to me until the end before answering." He does not accuse, he directs. He does not talk about the problem, he talks about the solution, and therefore he is understood. Whoever masters the form masters the result. Epictetus wrote, "Clarity is the reflection of the mind that knows itself." The man who speaks with precision is the one who has already learned to think with precision. He does not pour emotions into words, he organizes emotions into ideas. And that changes everything. Because while the talker wears himself out trying to be understood, the clear man makes himself understood in a phrase. Marcus Aurelius said that simplicity is the mark of power. And precise speech is precisely that. Simple, functional, incontestable. Each request is made with elegance, each word has weight, and the silence between one phrase and another carries the authority of someone who masters time. But there is something even more subtle at this stage. The man realizes that he does not need to promise much to generate trust. He discovers that speaking the minimum and fulfilling the maximum is worth more than any impressive speech. And that is what leads him to the next level, the mastery of expectation, where respect solidifies and the word becomes synonymous with reliability. Level 6, the one who promises less. This is the point where the man learns the rarest language that exists, that of contained expectation. He has already understood that talking a lot is expensive, that justifying is weakness, and that clarity is respect. Now, he discovers something even deeper, that true power lies in promising little and delivering everything. Promising less is not being pessimistic, it is being coherent. It is the opposite of the modern impulse to inflate, announce, anticipate. The common man talks about what he is going to do. The wise man speaks only when he has already done it. Because he understood that whoever talks about the future before fulfilling it tries to compensate with words what is lacking in action. Seneca said that the man who is hasty in promises is the same one who does not know himself. Promising less is therefore an act of self-knowledge. It is understanding one's own rhythm, one's own limits, and one's own strength. And this self-mastery translates into a silent, solid, and predictable posture, that presence that transmits confidence even before opening the mouth. Imagine a work environment. A boss asks for an urgent report. One says, "Leave it to me, I'll deliver it to you today, it will be amazing." The other only replies, "I'll send it to you early tomorrow." The first is looking for applause, the second for credibility. And when the next day arrives, it is the second who delivers. Without noise, without promises, without marketing, only result. And respect is established in the echo of what was done, not of what was said. Or think about a man who promises great love right at the beginning of a relationship. He talks about eternity, about plans, about intensity, but time reveals that the speech did not keep up with the breath. Meanwhile, there is another man who promises nothing, but fulfills everything. He is present, fulfills what he says, does not exaggerate what he feels, and therefore is remembered as reliable. His word is worth more because it is scarce. Epictetus wrote, "Do not announce what you will be, be." That is the essence of this level. The one who promises less does not need witnesses to validate his strength. He knows that constancy speaks louder than any promise. His life is a sequence of silent proofs, and the silence of the one who fulfills is louder than the discourse of the one who only speaks. Marcus Aurelius taught that greatness does not need to be proclaimed, and that is what the man of this level represents. Silent greatness. He understands that the strong do not announce, they build. They do not promise, they deliver. They do not ask for trust, they inspire trust. There is something deeply stoic in this posture. Because under-promising requires patience, the virtue of someone who is not in a hurry to be recognized. He trusts in time, not in words. And time, sooner or later, delivers justice to the man who remained firm. Promising less is deep down a form of respect. Respect for the other who is not deceived. Respect for oneself who does not need to prove anything. And respect for one's own word, which remains clean without debts. But there is one last step on this ladder. When the man understands that his word is no longer a promise, but law. When what he says has the weight of a contract and the simple "I will do" dispenses with witnesses. It is the seventh and highest level, that of the word as a contract. Level 7, the word as a contract. At this level, speech ceases to be an instrument and becomes an oath. It is the point at which each phrase pronounced carries the same value as a signature. The man who reaches here has learned the power of scarcity. He does not speak impulsively, does not promise habitually, does not opine out of vanity. Each word is born from a mind that has already gone through all the previous trials and survived the temptation to speak too much. His word is law because it is reliable, and reliable not because it pleases, but because it remains. Whoever knows him knows. If he said it, he will do it. If he promised, he will fulfill it. And if he remains silent, it is because he is still thinking. Seneca said that the man of his word is the one whose mouth does not precede his heart. At this stage, the man has learned to align what he feels, what he thinks, and what he says. Coherence has become the invisible armor that protects him from external chaos. He no longer needs to prove anything. The world does it for him, because true respect is born when the words of a man continue to exist, even in his absence. Imagine a businessman. He does not make long contracts, nor impressive speeches. He only says, "It's agreed." And whoever hears him does not ask for a document because he knows that his phrase is already a contract. It takes years to reach this point, years of coherence, delivery, posture. But when it arrives, there is no marketing that can replace it. Or think about something more intimate, a father with his son. He promises something and fulfills it, always, no matter the size, a walk, a help, a word. The son grows up knowing that what the father says is fixed truth. And one day he repeats this in his own behavior. This is how respect multiplies, by inheritance, not by imposition. Epictetus wrote, "Do not swear, fulfill." And that is exactly it. The man who reaches the 7th level no longer needs to say, "I swear," or "trust me." Trust is implicit because he built it in practice, word by word, choice by choice. The modern world does not understand this strength because it has become accustomed to speech as noise. But the wise man knows each word badly said is a debt, and each word fulfilled is an asset. Marcus Aurelius also reminded, integrity is the inner temple of the just man, and the word is the altar of this temple. Whoever speaks what he fulfills, whoever promises what he can sustain, whoever avoids what he does not control, this man is respected even in silence, because his absence speaks as much as his presence. His word is his face, and the face of an upright man is remembered even when he is no longer here. Reaching this level is understanding that speaking is creating reality. Each phrase is a brick in the building of reputation. Each promise is a ladder that the world will use to measure your height. And each lie is a crack, which sooner or later will make what you built crumble. Therefore, the wise man speaks little and fulfills everything. He understands that the power of speech is not in the volume, but in the veracity. It is not how much you speak that impresses, but how much you sustain what you say. And when the mouth and the action become one, the man reaches the highest point of human respect. He becomes reliable even in silence. The next and last block concludes this journey. It is the moment to look back, from the talker to the man of his word, and understand that the power we seek in the world is born, always, from the way we treat what comes out of our own mouth. The journey began with a common man, a talker, full of haste to be heard. He went through all the stages, the one who interrupted himself, the one who diminished himself, the one who justified himself, the one who wasted energy talking about others, the one who learned to ask with clarity, the one who promised little, and finally, the one who transformed his word into a contract. And at the end of it all, he discovers that true respect was never in the volume of the voice, but in the value of the speech. Living among words is inevitable, but getting lost in them is a choice. The wise man has learned to use the verb as an instrument of harmony, not of vanity. He understands that each word is a reflection of his mind, and that a mind in order speaks simply, not because he wants to appear intelligent, but because he no longer needs to prove anything. Seneca said that language reveals the soul, and when the soul is clean, the speech is too. Speaking well is not memorizing beautiful phrases or mastering arguments. It is knowing when to keep silent. It is understanding that there are moments in which silence communicates more dignity than any explanation, and there are others in which a single phrase said with serenity changes the entire perception of whoever hears it. Imagine the power of this. A man who does not hurry, does not defend himself, does not justify himself, who speaks what is necessary and keeps the rest silent, who understands that respect comes from coherence, not from noise. This man does not need to raise his voice to be heard. The world naturally leans in to listen to him. Epictetus wrote that no speech is neutral. It either elevates or destroys. And that is why the silence of the wise is sacred, because it is chosen, not imposed. The man who masters his speech masters his destiny, because whoever controls what comes out of the mouth controls what enters life. Marcus Aurelius also reminded, speak only what is necessary, and make the necessary something noble. That is the essence of intelligent speech. Be direct, without being cold. Be firm, without being arrogant. Be silent, without being distant. It is in this balance that lasting respect resides. In the end, the man realizes that words are mirrors, and that each one reflects the level in which his soul lives. The fool speaks to be noticed, the wise man speaks to edify, and the master only lives in such a way that the silence around him already communicates everything that needs to be said. This is the power of intelligent speech, to win without raising the tone, to teach without lecturing, and to be respected without needing to explain oneself. If this message touched you, breathe for a moment. Remember that your voice is a mirror of your inner mastery. And perhaps the greatest gesture of power you can make today is this: speak less, and let your behavior say the rest.